Hey, and welcome back to the third webinar in our series of 5 webinars called the 5-Week Body Language Mastery course. My name is Joshua Pellissier. You are listening to this and watching this webinar because you are one of the lucky people, I believe, that we're able to get on to this limited space available webinar that I put together to teach sort of the nuances of body language. But what I ended up sort of pulling out and what I ended up putting together was a course on what are called the 5 pillars of sex appeal. And so far, we've gone over a couple of those. And today, we're going to go over a really exciting one. This is probably in my opinion, the biggest game changer for me was understanding this part of body language. And so, I'm really excited to share it with you. And I'm sure I'm going to go sort of tangential in a lot of little side notes as I go through this presentation because I've learned a lot from personal experience throughout this process, and I can give you a lot of heads up on some of the things that I've done. So just sort of give you a brief intro here. I'm the author of The Tao of Badass, a book that you have purchased, and you have a copy of currently. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this webinar. Not everybody who got a copy got access to this webinar, but everybody who has access to this webinar at least has a copy of the product of The Tao of Badass. And in that book, I go over a lot of things that I've learned over the past, I guess it's been about 9 years, 8 years now, 8 years of my study and about 6 years of being a professional dating coach. I studied, oh man, so many things. I've studied all the different legs of what I call the spokes of what make an attractive man. And whenever I got to the end of sort of my journey to where I am now, and it's definitely not at the end of my journey yet, but when I got to where I am now, where I'm actually successful with women, and I've sort of started seeing that progress and success from some of the stuff that I was applying, I realized that there is a way to sort of master this stuff, to be just sort of the best out there. And that was what I was shooting for in the beginning. And that's what the Tao of Badass is all about. It's about, mastering this area and not just being okay at it. And so for me, I'm really excited to be able to produce this and show it to you. And, again, I've sort of been all over the place with this. I've dated a lot of women as a result of learning this stuff. And it wasn't that, dating a lot of women is something to brag about. It's just that I've learned so much from dating all these different women because as I started to get successful, I took it to the next level and kept taking it to the next level. And that's what I expect you to do too. And that's one of the reasons why I'm teaching this course here on body language mastery and not just an introduction to body language. So again, today's course or this webinar series is called the 5-Week Body Language Mastery course. And we're going to go over, this is the third week here. We're going to go over the 5 pillars of sex appeal. Now, what are the 5 pillars of sex appeal? Well, they're basically the 5 different areas of body language that create massive amounts of sexual attraction if done properly. And most guys don't know how to do these things, or they just misunderstand a couple of things and misinterpret a couple of things. And you get a couple of things wrong with body language, and women will get this negative emotion about you because body language is the sort of language of your subconscious mind and the language that sort of portrays to someone else how they should be feeling about you. So, of course, we're going to be using body language in a positive way here to create positive reactions from people. And, of course, we're going to be using that mostly within the interactions with women that we have and how to create massive amounts of sex appeal on demand, which is what I want to give you. I don't want to make it so that you are sort of tied down to a technique or that you're sort of tied to what other people believe about you immediately, what their first impressions are, that you're not able to come free from that and sort of have control over what people think or what people feel around you. So I really want to give you this ability to make people that you want to be attracted to you be drawn toward you. And for a long time, I didn't think this was possible. Probably about 5 years ago, I sort of stumbled onto a system that I had to put together from a lot of different areas, but made a system. It's what I do. I make systems for stuff. And to be honest, I make systems because I have a terrible memory, and so I have to write down what I do. And over the years of writing down what I did that worked, I put it all together, and then I started just doing it, like reading over my notes and then doing that one thing in that order, and it just kicks ass. It was just amazing how many how many things I could control that I didn't think that I could before. And one of those things that I didn't think that I could control in other people was whether or not they were sexually attracted to me. I thought you just sort of had it or you didn't have it. So this sort of 5 pillars of sex appeal are the 5 biggest areas around that ability to attract whomever you want, whichever woman you want. And I got to the point at the end where I could literally walk into a bar. You could point at any woman you wanted, and I could take her home. And it was great. It was great, but at the same time, it's not what I wanted ultimately. And I sort of grew beyond that. But that was a skill set that I have now in my back pocket if I ever need it. And originally, the reason why I got into all this is because I met a girl 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, that I didn't know how to attract, and I just instantly liked her. I just loved her. I didn't know what it was. I just wanted her. I knew that she was like someone that I wanted to be with forever. I just thought she could be my future wife even, and it just fell to pieces for me. I didn't know how to keep the attraction going. We never totally got together. I would even lay in bed next to her, not touch her. And it was just a total mess, and I left that feeling like I was going to screw everything up for the rest of my life, and I didn't want to not have the ability to attract my future wife when I met her. Well, long story short, I don't tell a lot of people this story, probably partially because I'm contractually obligated to not tell this in full detail, because I have a movie deal about this. But there is about 7-8 years after I met this girl, I went down this cycle that just took me to all over the place, studying everything I could study. I never thought I'd see her again, but about a little less than 2 years ago, we happened to meet up totally by chance in Costa Rica of all places. She happened to be in the same city I was in. We met, and it just if I didn't know the stuff that I know now, there's no way I would have been able to attract her the second time. And now, we live together. And we're dating, and she's fantastic. She's the one I've always wanted, and I went back and got her. So it is possible to do that, and I want to teach sort of what I've done to give myself that ability to be able to attract women like that at sort of on demand for me, and teach you how to do it too. These are guidelines, and they are truths that I've learned that sort of are across all borders, all different types of women that you meet. It'll be the same thing for everyone, because this is but body language is a subconscious language, like I said. So it works regardless of your verbal language, and it will also translate into a lot of the other areas of your life as well. So I just wanted to sort of give you that prelude. I know I hadn't really talked about that much in the past webinars, and I really wanted to just reveal that to you, that's the reason why I got into this. You could be getting into this because you want to hook up with more women, you want to get it out of your system before you settle down with someone. You're not really sure what you want, so you want to date a lot of women just to see what you want, or maybe you want to prove to yourself that you can do it. Whatever it is, whatever goal you have, if it's to sleep with any woman you want, if it's to date any woman you want, if it's to marry someone in the future, whatever it is, this will take you to those goals. And at the very last second, once you get past the mastery level, then you can choose which direction you want to go in. Do you want to just sleep with a lot of women? Do you want to get married? Do you want to, date beautiful women? Do you want to be polyamorous like I was for a long period of time and date multiple women at the same time? And, and be totally open about it. It's up to you. So I'm going to get into those things now. And again, the first webinar we went over is all about eye contact, which is basically how to attract a woman and speak the language of eye contact, of these sort of not just your eyes, but the area around your eyes as well, and how to use your eye contact to draw women in to your world and to attract them and to sort of stand out so that you're not just another guy in a crowd like all the other guys they've met. The next webinar we did was on touch. That was last week's webinar. Touch sort of holds the key to not just getting out of the friend zone, which is major, but also to escalating to something to a sexual level. If you don't understand how to build touch on sort of a ladder, then there's no way that you can take it to a sexual level with a woman, because you have to touch at some point. Otherwise, you're not really getting sexual. You're just kind of masturbating, which is, hey, not there's anything wrong with that, as Seinfeld would say. So today's webinar I'm excited to introduce is all around negative body language. Now, the word negative here, I want to sort of just speak to for a second. Negative doesn't mean that you're being mean or you're being a negative person. Negative body language means you're taking it away. We'll get a little bit into negative and positive body language in a little bit. Obviously, we're going to go into that in detail today. I'm going to give you a lot of examples for this because it's a really important visual part of this process. But for now, I just wanted to show you that negative body language is what we're talking about today. Next week, we're going to go over something called psychological space, which is basically how to bring someone into your frame, as we call it, or into your reality, and also how to step into her world physically in her space while gaining her attention and attraction, but without throwing yourself out there. So like it looks like you're needy or, you're, putting your neck on the line there. And finally, we're going to go over dominant body language. Dominant body language and negative body language are two different things. And today I'm going to go over a little bit about how those two are different, but more so I'm going to do that in the dominant body language webinar. So without further ado here, I'm going to get straight over to the negative body language section. And before I get into the super detail around negative body language, I wanted to sort of speak to what it is first in a little bit more detail. And just to sort of get this out there so that you can hear it in a way that I think is really simple to understand. Negative body language is I'll use something that may be way too simple in the beginning, but then I'll elaborate. A negative body language is basically not positive body language. Negative body language is whenever you turn your body away from a woman, or anybody really, for that matter. Now we do this subconsciously already. If someone says something to us and we don't like it, we turn our body away from them, sort of to shield ourselves subconsciously. If someone does something that we do like and we want more of it, we automatically and subconsciously turn our bodies toward them. Just like, for example, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this before, but a lot of porn or model shots that are done in post, they'll go into Photoshop and they will dilate these girls' pupils. Now, why do they do that? They do it because whenever a woman's pupils are dilated, it's a sign that they are aroused. Now, why would they go through all this trouble to dilate, someone's pupils on their eyes on a picture? Whenever it's so small, we could, and I'm gonna go out there and say that most guys aren't looking at the girl's eyes anyway. But why did they go through all the trouble to do that? Well, the reason why is because we recognize movement and tiny minor details in body language, movement, and in patterns that we see in body language. And a pupil dilation is one of those things. Now, whenever we recognize those things, what we do is we subconsciously recognize them, subconsciously register them. And then the way that our bodies, our subconscious minds sort of relay that to our conscious minds is through emotion. So basically, to make that simple, if you can use your body language the proper way, you will make a woman feel attracted to you, not think she's attracted to you, which is a massive difference. Women do not make decisions based on, very many women do not make decisions based on logic. They make decisions based on emotion. Most women are this way. And if you want to speak the language of a woman, you have to speak to her emotional brain, and her emotional brain speaks the language of body language. So you can sort of bypass all of her logical barriers and speak straight to her emotions if you know what you're doing with your body. And that's sort of what we're going to talk about today with negative body language. It sort of helps you put barriers up so that she knows not to cross certain lines with you. It helps her have the ability to chase you. Using negative body language will give you sort of a superpower that is really impressive to other guys and to other women. And I'll sort of go into some of those details in a little bit, but just to kind of give you a quick story. I remember one time I was it must have been probably my 5th or 6th boot camp I ever taught on attracting women. And I'd take guys into the field whenever I did this. So I would go out into an actual bar with these guys, probably about 8 guys. And I had a team of people that would work with me that I trained as well. And I took them out into the bar and I would help them meet women. I would show them how to do it, and I would show them what they're doing wrong and how to fix it as well. So they would watch me, I would demonstrate, and then they would copy me basically. And then as it came back, I'd say that was great, but you could do it this better and whatever. And also go up and meet women for them and then introduce them. So I did a lot of like hands-on work with my clients. It was a very expensive program, and I still do that as well. It's just a very expensive program. So Anyway, the one time I was at this, like I said, must have been my fifth boot camp, and I went into a bar, and I went downstairs into the bar into the basement area where there's it's just another bar down there. It was in North Carolina, I think at the time, and I went down, and there's a group of guys standing with maybe two girls, and they're all standing around, and immediately I could tell that I could walk into this group, and I could take it over immediately. I could just charge in. I could start talking to everybody, and immediately both the women would be attracted to me. So I walked up, I started talking, and I remember this is the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "I have a question for you. I hope you guys don't mind if I ask this." And they said, "No, of course, whatever." And I said, "Have you ever had a squirting orgasm?" to these girls, and it was the first thing that came out of my mouth. And the reason why I asked is because I right before this, maybe a week or two before this, I was having sex with a girl, and she had a squirting orgasm. It just was like someone dumped water all over my couch, which is where it was. And so I just wanted to talk to these women about it, and it was really recent in my life, so I thought I'd bring it up. So I brought it up, and these guys were just like, "Holy crap!" Like they thought I was gonna get punched in the face, but I used my body language in the proper way, and these girls started laughing instead of giving me shit for it. And so these guys were blown away. So I gave this guy a technique afterwards. The girls went to go buy me a drink, actually. And when they left, the guys were just so blown away. They're like, who are you? What are you doing? How did you do that? And I was like, well, let me show you. I'm a dating coach, so I'll just show you what I did. Try this. And I told the guy a couple things that I'm going to teach you today. And he walked over. He did what I said to a girl who was dancing. It's always that girl dancing in the middle of the bar that looks really hot that everyone's afraid to go dance with. And, she'll dance with the guy, and then she'll push him away, and she'll be by herself. Well, this girl was dancing there, and I said, go up to this girl. I know it sounds crazy, but do these things. And I gave him a list. He walked up, and he did it exactly what I said. And he turned away, and he used negative body language at that time. And she reached around his body. So she was behind him. She reached around in front of his chest, so sort of hugged him from behind, grabbed his shirt. He had a button-up shirt, and ripped the buttons open on his shirt and pulled his shirt open and then started dancing with him. And he was looking over at me, like, giving me a thumbs up, being super pumped. And I'm like, it just works. It's just psychology. The psychology behind this just makes sense, and it works. And so this is sort of the power that I'm going to teach to you guys today. So I'm going to stop on the negative body language front and just sort of go into it. So body language is your only real tool to build attraction. And without it, you've got a whole lot of convincing to do. What does that mean? Well, that means that if you don't use body language properly, you have got to tell a woman why she should be attracted to you. And let me tell you why that's a really bad idea. The first is that women, again, don't make decisions based on logic. And your verbiage, what you're saying, your verbal content, is only 20% of the communication. So, and it's also processed by your logical brain. So that means that in order for a woman to listen to what you're saying, she actually has to process what you're saying with her logical brain. And you can't use your logical brain and your emotional brain at the same time. So what does that mean? That means that a woman is logically listening to what you say. There's no way she can be attracted to you. And that's the bottom line. So if you are trying to go in and not knowing anything about body language, and you're trying to convince a woman to like you, maybe by there's something called routines that guys use where they say sort of the same thing over and over again to all these women, and it's usually a lie, and they think that the routine is going to get them to sort of the next level with these women. There's also guys who just go straight into rapport by like thinking that they can connect with a woman, and by connecting with her and like revealing shit about themselves and being sensitive, that women are going to just like rip their clothes off and want to sleep with them. And I'm not sure if you've ever tried either of these techniques, but neither of them work. I've tried both, actually, and I think if you haven't tried either of them, then you should definitely try them both just to get a feel for them. Routines don't really work because if you try a routine, if you try to say something that you learn online or something that has been proven, sort of a pickup line, it's proven to attract women. The problem is that if you do it without the body language, it doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is because all of the attraction is in the body language. So as soon as you start to believe that it's going to work, then it starts to work. And why is that? Well, because your body language falls in line with what you're saying as soon as you believe what you're saying. So, the other side of that as well, the rapport guys, the guys that go in sort of trying to win a woman over by being the nice guy, by being this, the sensitive guy, those guys have a really hard time as well because they're skipping the first stage of the map of interaction, and that stage is attraction. So what I'm going to teach you to do now is I'm going to teach you to use your body language again to build attraction, because it is truly your only tool to do that. And without it, you've got a lot of sort of convincing to do, and you're starting from a really negative spot in the first place, where most guys can't get past. And I've never been able to get past it without using my body language as well. So let's move on here. So I'm going to go over a couple different things. I'm going to go over positive body language, which I'm going to go into detail in a bit. I'm going to go into why it's good, and I'm going to go into, most importantly, why it's bad, and how to keep from giving positive body language in a way that's going to kill the attraction. And of course, I'm going to go over negative body language as well. So first, though, I'm going to stick straight to positive body language. And I'm going to dive right into this. I guess the real question in the beginning is, what is positive body language, and how can you tell what it looks like? I'm going to give you an example. This is a good example of positive body language. As you see here, this guy, I don't know who this is, by the way, but this guy is sort of facing his shoulders and his waist slightly toward this girl. So his head's fully toward this girl, and his shoulders and his waist are there as well. He's also kind of crowding her space. She's sort of got a positive look on her face, and she's looking up. But the thing that most guys wouldn't see here is that right here around her shoulders, you'll see that she's rolling her shoulders forward. The reason why she's rolling her shoulders forward is because she's showing submission, and you'll see that his shoulders are rolled back. So he's showing dominance. So this is an area during which positive body language can be a good thing. You'll see here that it looks like she is receptive. She's looking up. But the problem with this is that she's turned away with the rest of her body. So he hasn't won her over yet. And he's already giving her, the only thing that's facing him right now is her face. Her shoulders, her chest, her hips, her feet, everything else, her legs are all facing another direction. So right now, this guy's in danger of a couple things. He's in danger of falling into the friend zone because he's not getting her to chase him. And he's in danger of losing the attraction as well because, again, actually for the same reason, because he's not getting her right now to invest in chase. He's also pushing too fast. So, and I'll go into in a little while a little bit about a technique that I use. It's sort of a default on how to tell which part of your body you should face a girl with. But all in all, an overarching concept, a really good one, a really good rule of thumb, I guess to say, is you want to match her body language. So right now he's sort of leading this by giving her his chest, his hips, and his face. I can't see his feet, so I'm not sure if they're facing toward her or not, but probably. And so she's got his full attention. Now from here, there are a lot of problems that can happen. There's not really any place for her to go except turning him completely and kissing him, or turning away. And if she's not ready to kiss him or make out with him or hook up with him, or she hasn't made that decision yet, or she hasn't felt like she wants to do that yet, then she's not going to do it. She's going to run away instead. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of using positive body language too much in an interaction. One thing you should probably know is that anytime a comedy show portrays a creepy guy, it's because he is giving too much positive body language. And I've got a couple examples for that. If you think of if you ever thought of like any funny movie or funny TV show or whatever, and they're trying to show some guy being really creepy, what do they show? They show a guy like maybe leaning up against a locker or something, like, crowding a girl's space. She's sort of turning away and he's facing her more. He's sort of looking at her up and down all the time, trying to push towards seduction is what he's doing. And the reason why you can't do that is because he's not seeing that. The reason why it's creepy is because he's not seeing that she's not in that stage. She's not in the stage of seduction. She's in the stage of attraction, but he's pushing to seduction, and so it's killing the attraction. So if you don't build up the attraction, you can't pass go. You can't collect $200, And so what you have to do is sort of realize what stage you're in and speak to that stage directly. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of guys who are sort of comically portrayed as creepy guys, and if you think about the way that they move, you'll notice that they give way too much positive body language, and that's the reason why they're creepy. So I'll go into that right now. I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but this is the Night at the Roxbury's guys from Saturday Night Live. Yeah, they're pretty funny. And this is sort of the point where they're saying me, him, him, me, him. So they're like, a girl wants to dance, the girl's looking over, and they start going, oh, which one, who do you want to dance with? We'll do whatever you want, right? So, and they give super positive body language, these guys. I mean, they're facing girls directly. They're like basically humping on them. That's like, they're taking it to the extreme to show that sort of negative component to giving too much positive body language. So, this is one of them, sort of one of the comic examples of too much positive body language. And another I think is really funny. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. Is this guy? He's Darrell in I think he's from Mad TV, and this is him, like basically what he does in this sketch, and you can look it up online. If you just type "Can I have your number?" And then Mad TV, you'll immediately see this guy. And basically what he's doing is he's trying to play like the super nice guy, trying to sound interested, and then he's only showing complete positive body language, and it makes the woman that he's talking to just feel totally creeped out. And actually, as you watch it, you can feel creeped out for her, just by seeing this guy being all up in her face all the time. He just can't take a hint, and all this stuff. It's really, I mean, it's hilarious. I think it's really funny. So he's like, "Can I have your number? Can I have your number?" He's trying to get a number over and over again, and it's really funny. But what these two guys, these two characters, I guess these three characters here, have in common is that neither of them understand the 5 pillars of sex appeal. Neither of them, all three of them, don't understand, especially how to use negative body language, and all of them use too much positive body language, and that creeps women out. So I'm going to go into that. But why is positive body language such a bad thing? Well, that's a really good question. Positive body language projects neediness. Now, if you think about it, again, I'm going to go back to these two guys here. These three guys, I guess. The guys from Night at the Roxbury's and this guy from Mad TV. What they have in common is that they both seem all three of them seem super needy. The Night at the Roxbury guys are overcompensating for their neediness by like trying to seem like they're aloof and cool dudes, and then the other guy here is just sort of succumbed to it and dependent upon being super needy. And so these two characters, or I guess these three characters here, are both sort of projecting neediness. And as you know, neediness is the number one destroyer of attraction. So positive body language projects neediness, and giving positive body language too soon is what projects in the first place. So, and of course, neediness kills attraction. So because neediness kills attraction and positive body language projects neediness, that means that you have to, in the beginning of an interaction especially, you cannot use positive body language to excess. And so I'm going to show you what excess means. And of course, I'm going to show you a little bit more about what positive body language means as well. So just to elaborate a little more, positive body language takes away her ability to chase you back. So what this means is that there's a game of sort of push and pull in attracting women. And what you do is you show a little bit of interest, and then you pull away. And then she shows a little bit of interest, and then she pulls away. And what you do is you have this sort of dance that goes back and forth. Now, there's something that I'm not sure who thought of this originally. It's one of these coffee table psychology concepts. It's called cat string theory. I think it's supposed to be making fun of string theory, but that's how a nerd thought of this, because it's called cat string theory. And basically what it states is that if you sort of dangle the string like you would in front of a cat, the cat will sort of go crazy over the string at this piece of yarn. Like, I want it. But as soon as you drop the string, the cat just sort of smells it for a second, bats it a couple times, and then walks off. Now, why does this happen? Well, it happens because cats, like women, aren't interested in the string. They're interested in the game, the chase. They want to have fun with it. That's what they do. And so whenever you take that ability away from her, you basically take away the only interest that she would have in talking to a guy she doesn't know in the first place. By the way, this is not my arm. I'm not sure whose hand this is, and it's not my cat. Just in case, I just realized that kind of seemed like it may have been. But essentially, what we do as guys is we try to just throw the string on the ground and go, all right, play with it. You got it. It's your string. You can have it. You don't have to try. And what women do, sort of like cats, is they walk up, they smell it, they bat it a couple times, and then they walk off because they're not interested anymore. So what you want to do is you want to sort of dangle the string and make her chase you. And the way that you make her chase you is through banter and negative body language, which are two of the major components to attraction. So the first rule of positive body language is you don't give it to her for no reason. That's also the second rule of positive body language. So you do not give positive body language to anyone, especially women that you don't know, for no reason. You give them positive body language for doing something that you like. I guess that, for example, let me go back actually. For example, something that a woman might do that you like would be laugh at one of your jokes. Another thing that she might do that you like is sort of play along with you, ask you questions, continue to talk. Push things forward through the map of interaction. And if you want to brush up on the map of interaction, I highly suggest you flip open the Tao of Badass and sort of get to that, because it's probably one of my favorite sections in the book, and is crucial. It's basically a system from start to finish how to meet, attract, build rapport with, and seduce women. And so, what I ended up sort of figuring out here is that if you give positive body language to someone too early in the interaction without any reason to give them positive body language, then people do not care about getting it from you anymore. This is the same for your business environment as well. If you are at a job and you face people with your body before they do a good job, then people will have almost no reason to continue to do a good job. They can get your approval anytime they want just by talking to you, or just by looking at you or whatever. And this is what happens to a lot of guys. A lot of guys see a hot woman and they walk up and they just face her directly. They're trying to convince her and talk to her. And there's a couple other things, leaning in. There's another thing that a lot of guys do. That's called pecking. Pecking is where you basically lean in as a guy toward a girl and try to talk to her when you're leaning in. And basically what you're doing is you're closing the gap between your mouth and her ear, so she doesn't have to try at all to listen to you. She doesn't put any effort whatsoever into getting your attention and to listening to what you have to say. Now it's a problem because if there's no reason for her to invest, then she won't invest. So if you keep leaning forward like that and you get that positive body language like that, even if it's a loud club, I don't care what the reason is that you have in your head, you're killing the attraction as you do it. And so I highly suggest you do not do that. So again, first rule is do not give positive body language for no reason. Second rule is do not give positive body language for no reason. So, and again, like I said, the pecking thing is one of the most massive indicators that you are giving positive body language for no reason, and women will start to turn their bodies away from you and start to get distracted, start to look at their phones, start to talk to someone else. And if you keep chasing them, then you're officially a creep, and women don't like that. So I don't think that I suggest you don't do that. And the way that you're going to understand how to do that properly to avoid that sort of pain point, and also to use this really well, you're going to be using negative body language, which is really what this whole webinar today is all about. So let's zoom right in right now to negative body language. The first thing I want to say is that knowing negative body language will get women to chase you. And this is literally what it looks like when a woman chases you. She'll be trying to get at you and trying to get your attention and trying to touch you and trying to grab you. She'll do anything she can to get your attention and get your approval. And you do this without saying anything in particular. All you're doing is you are using your body language to project to her that you are not needy but interested, and that she doesn't try to chase you, then you're gonna walk off basically. And you're not doing it in a way that's like kind of cocky or egotistical. You're doing it in a way that just is. I just realized that there's this weird demonic looking dude photobombing this picture. I don't know who this is either, but that's pretty funny right there. But anyway, so besides the weird guy in the background, this is literally what it will look like. And again, this is something that when you'll learn to understand, you can sort of master. Your friends will be absolutely blown away by your ability to do this. It's something that most guys do not understand, and the top 2% of men that do get it are the guys who have had their pick of any woman they want. So, women will be, and very hot women will be chasing you and sort of doing exactly what you think they're going to do, sort of baiting, and it's all like it's a game really, and it works very, very well. If you don't play it, you can't win. That's just kind of how it is. So negative body language makes women chase you is sort of the bottom line for that, and it's the only way to make women chase you. So how do you use negative body language to sort of get women to chase you is the real question. So I'm going to go over how to do that now, and sort of for the rest of this webinar, I'm going to be touching on the different points on how to get women to chase you using negative body language with them. And there's some techniques in a bit that I'll go over as well. And but mostly I want to go over, in the beginning, I want to go over some of the larger concepts to help you understand sort of how to use it to get women to chase you. So the first thing you want to understand is that you have to use negative body language in conjunction with banter. If you don't know anything about banter, again, crack open the Tao of Badass. I go over the banter in detail. And also, when you bought the Tao of Badass, you got instant access to my banter cheat sheet, which is in the members area when you log in, and that you can check out. And I have sort of a running list of all the banter lines that I've used and I've taught and collected over the years that have been proven to work. But without negative body language, none of them work. It's very important that you do understand negative body language and use it in conjunction with banter. So it's not just like, I think this is what most guys misunderstand about pickup lines, is that if you attempt to use a pickup line and you don't use negative body language, it won't work. But if you attempt to use even a cheesy, crappy pickup line and you use negative body language, it will work. And so I want you to know that. So just after, the way that you use this is just after you deliver a banter line, you want to give negative body language. So what does that mean? That means if you're facing her directly with your body and you say something like, you're trouble, which is a really classic banter line. You can be like, you know, I'm looking at you and I realize right now that you're trouble. And then smile, sort of put your hands up like it's not your fault, sort of in the air, and then start to turn your body away a little bit as you're smiling. And then you can turn back around again and keep talking. Now, what this does is it sort of shows a woman that if she doesn't respond positively to your banter, that you're going to leave. And because you're being playful and fun, she's going to want you around. And because you're not giving her everything, she's going to have to chase you. And as she chases you, she will be building her own attraction for you. And that's really sort of the crucial component here. So anytime you do something risky that you think could get you rejected, you want to give negative body language to increase the chances of success of what you're doing. So in your mind, anything that you do that maybe is outside your comfort zone, right after you do it or as you do it, you want to give negative body language in conjunction with that. So what this does is it forces women to not reject you just out of fun, basically, or boredom, or because there's a risk there for them. Because if they get hit on all the time, especially very, very hot women get hit on, 10, 15 times a day by guys. And that's a lot. Even if they're just going to the grocery store, they'll get hit on 3 times in the grocery store. So you have to know how to stand out to these women. And the way that you stand out is not going to be really what you say. It's going to be the organization of understanding how to use your negative body language like this. And anytime you say something that could be a little bit risky in your head that you think maybe she could reject you for, you want to give negative body language along with it. And sort of my motto is negative body language, positive tongue, which basically means banter with something positive. Don't insult her in any kind of way. I've never been a fan of sort of insulting women to get them to feel self-conscious. I just don't dig that. If you want that, you can go study someone else's stuff. But that you didn't go for that, which is why you're here. It just doesn't work like this does. The only reason why that works, insulting women, is also called a neg, as the guy Mystery calls it from the Pickup Artist and the game. The reason why it would work at all in the first place is because it sort of makes women feel crappy. And so it sort of brings them, as they feel crappy, it brings them down to the level at which you believe your attractiveness is and you feel like you can talk to her. But it doesn't work long term, and it's got a lot of really terrible negative side effects, not just for the women, but it's also got negative side effects for your interaction with them. And so there becomes a lot of other tests afterwards you have to get over, and it's just not necessary. So what I do is I say that, use a positive tongue and negative body language, which means you're going to be saying something positive, but you're going to be turning your body away in a way that's sort of negative body language so that it gets them to chase you for more positive stuff instead of just insulting them and then saying, oh, you got to win me over now that I don't like you, Anyway, but either way, I think that you should try everything out. If you want to try insulting women, go ahead, I guess. But you'll probably find that it doesn't work very well for you. So women don't reject guys because they say something cheesy or stupid. This is very important. Women do not reject guys because they use cheesy, pickup lines or whatever. I've had so many women say that was cheesy. I'd say something to them and they would go, "That's cheesy. That's one of your pickup lines, whatever," and they still sleep with me. Why? Because I'm doing something that rest of the guys aren't doing. I am using negative body language. Because women reject guys because they say something stupid or cheesy and they expect it to work. If a guy walks up and he is talking to a woman and he is facing her directly and he wants her to chase him and he thinks that saying something is going to do that, he's asking to get rejected right then. So what you want to do is you want to show that you understand that saying something is not going to attract her, and using negative and positive body language is going to. So you're going to say something, and you're not going to expect just the words that you say to make her jump your bones. You're going to expect the way you move your body to make her want to jump your bones. And so nothing else that you say really matters, and you're going to sort of have that mentality as you move forward with this. So using negative body language subconsciously projects that you are ready to walk away at any time during an interaction. So a woman will not reject you based on a couple of things that usually reject you on. One is that women will reject you based on the idea that it's risky for them to talk to you because you could get creepy. So it's either they reject you immediately and not have to worry about that risk, which most women will do, or they sit there and they put up with it, and then they have a massive take a massive chance that you're going to be, a weirdo, and you're not going to leave her alone, or you're going to ask for a number over and over again. Can I get your number? And you're going to be doing stuff like that. So you want to, if you use negative body language, you will subconsciously project to the women, so subconsciously speak to their emotions. And they'll get a feeling like if they don't try to impress you, that you're going to leave. And because you're lighthearted and fun and you're sort of bold by walking up in the first place, they want you to stay around. And there's more to you. You haven't given them everything, which shows them also that you're used to talking to very beautiful, attractive women. If you weren't used to talking to beautiful women, you would immediately turn toward them and face them, and you would give them everything you had and try to make it easy for them to like you. But ironically, trying to make it easy for someone to like you makes them not want to like you. This is the same thing in your life with guys that you know as well. Guys all have the same reaction toward each other in the business space. It's the same thing. You'll see so many deals fall apart because guys will give too much positive body language and get too needy on the deal, and it just falls to pieces. So what you want to do is you want to take this in all areas of your life, but for right now, we're going to just speak about the attracting women side of everything. So I'm going to go over to something called the brackets of badassness. I like to name these areas, and I like alliteration. So there we go. So I'm going to go over some of these concepts. The big one being, in my opinion, being the negative body language guide. I think you're going to gain a lot from that, but I also have a lot of other different areas as well that I want to go over and talk to you about. Oops, there we go. And I'm going to go over one advanced concept and sort of dive into all these different techniques. As I go through this, again, if you have any questions that you can think of, feel free to comment, and I will get to those questions and answer them as soon as I can. Without further ado here, I'm just going to dive right into it, quite literally, and start to go into sort of some of the techniques that are available to you to allow you to use negative body language in a way that will attract women immediately. And then I'm going to go over the negative body language guide last, so that you can see sort of a step-by-step process of which stage you're in and how to use your body to attract women during that stage. The first thing I'm going to go over is called spinning a girl. I mean, it's pretty simple. This only works in a high-impact environment. Well, actually, that's not true. It works in any environment, but most guys are really afraid to do it because in a low-impact environment like a cafe, because when you do this, everybody stares at you, and a lot of guys are not comfortable with a lot of people staring at them. Probably mostly because guys aren't used to being attractive. Because if you're an attractive guy, everyone stares at you. That's what happens. So as you sort of go through this process, you have to get used to the idea that people are going to stare at you. Because as you start to use your body language properly and you start to attract women in your life, especially with the way you walk and the way you talk, things like this, you're going to have a lot of women looking at you. And a lot of guys are going to be challenged by you when you do this. So you're going to have to learn how to take that attention and take that criticism from people and sort of, let it go with strides. But again, that's a high quality problem, as we say. It means that you're attracting so many people that people are getting jealous, and other guys are getting jealous, and women are staring at you a lot, and they will be testing you a lot as well. So this is called spinning a girl, and essentially what this does is it makes the use of negative body language with her instead of using it with yourself. So what I mean by that is that you're going to be basically spinning a girl like you're dancing with her. Don't do this too much. I mean, I've been to on field nights before where I taught this before I left, and I got there and there would be 10, 15 guys in the bar spinning women, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that, you may not want to tip women off as easily that's what you're doing. But it is probably, I used to call this what is it called? The bad attitude washer. So it was like a bad attitude washing machine. So basically what you do is you would spin a girl, even if she was like a bad attitude, whatever. By the time she spun back around again and she was looking at you again, she had a complete shit-eating grin on her face. It's just, for some reason, this works really well. So basically what you're doing is you're turning her body away from you physically, and in a light way, and I'll tell you how to do that in a minute without freaking her out. And you are going to be spinning her around and turning her away from you, and then turning her back. So you're leading her at that moment. You are showing her that you don't need her to face you, so you don't need her attention, which projects non-neediness, which builds a lot of attraction. And a lot of women find this to be very fun because they feel really feminine and dainty whenever you do this. So I'm going to sort of show you there are a couple of rules to spinning, and I'm just going to kind of go over those rules, and then you'll see I have a couple pictures here to show you. So if she gives you her right hand, and one of the ways to do this is just stick your hand out. It's a pretty simple process. You just kind of stick your hand out, kind of like you're going to shake hands, but instead put your hand palm up and stick it out to a girl that you've just met, maybe that you haven't met yet even. And I know this sounds crazy, but 99% of the time they're going to take your hand, and they're just going to put their hand in yours and not even think about it. And I know this sounds kind of crazy because I wouldn't do that to most people, and I know you wouldn't think that a girl would do that to you, but try it, and try me here. At least try it 3 times, and you'll see that women will put their hand in your hand, and they've just met you, or they don't even know who you are. Just walk straight up and put your hand out like you're going to sort of take their hand, and they'll put their hand in yours. And at that moment, if she gives you her right hand, you're going to sort of always spin her hand around her, across her body. So as you'll see here, this is kind of a demonstration. You're going to take her right hand, which is on your left-hand side, and you're going to spin it this way across her body. And what you're doing whenever you do this is you're basically setting her up so that she automatically starts to spin. Now, if you try this the other way, where you try to spin it this way, whenever she gives you her right hand, she's going to have to spin backwards, and you'll get very few women interested in doing that. They'll just sort of, if it gets hard to do, they'll just stop. They'll go, no, I don't want to do this. Never mind. Leave me alone, Instead of it working, it'll just backfire. So it's really important that you understand this. And of course, if she gives you her left hand, which is going to be on your right here, you want to spin her across her body this way, to your left. So you'll spin her this way around and sort of spin her across her body. And spin her all the way around 100% until she's back and she's facing you again, kind of just like a dance move, like normal. And as soon as you do that, turn your body away. Smile and turn your body away for maybe 2 seconds. And then turn back around again and keep talking and keep interacting with her. I've actually given, what this does is it shows a massive amount of interest from you, builds a massive amount of interest from her to you, and then also takes all of your interest away all at one time while she's facing you. So now she's facing you directly. You are facing the opposite direction because you turned around for a couple seconds. And she will do anything she can to sort of get that back again, that attraction that you just gave her, that attention you just gave her, to get it back. And she'll go crazy. This is actually the technique that I taught that guy I was talking about earlier in the webinar that made the girl reach around behind him and grab his shirt and rip his buttons off and rip his shirt open and start rubbing on his chest and dancing with him. It just freaked him out. I mean, it's something you hear about in movies, or see in movies, you hear about in stories, but it never really happens. And, we always think that's the lucky guy, or, that's the guy who's always been good with women. But that guy, I literally, he was standing there with his drink on his chest when I met him, and I walked up to his group and attracted both the women in his group to the point where they were out getting me beers. And I was just waiting for them to go get my beers. And when they came back, and while I was waiting for them to come back and bring my beer to me, these guys were asking me how I just did that. And apparently they just met these girls too, and they just didn't know how I did that. So I taught them this one technique, and I was like, it's a really powerful technique. It's a really great technique to use. It can be overused, and it can be, weird. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But if you don't do it, I'm just going to tell you that you're throwing away what I believe to be one of the most psychologically powerful attraction techniques that I have ever seen. Not that I know, but just that I've ever seen. These are, it's just a really powerful thing to do. So I would definitely make good use of it, and I'd try it out. If you haven't tried it yet, do it. If you have tried it, give it a couple more tries, and try it with the way that I'm telling you now. It took me a long time to figure out that there's sort of a system to this, and that you have to do it a certain way. Like you have to spin her across her body. Otherwise, you'll get a lot of resistance, and it won't work. So there's that's enough of you staring at a hot chick. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this hot chick now. Though she is nice, isn't she? No matter which way you spin her, she's still beautiful. I'm definitely digging her. So anyway, that's that technique. That's called this spinning a girl or a spin technique. Another technique is called spinning or stepping away. Stepping away is essentially where when you get a positive response from a woman, you are going to be stepping away from her and giving her negative body language to like a really massive degree. And basically what that looks like is as soon as she's like laughing at one of your jokes, or she gives you sort of a positive response, or she gives you something cheeky, like she starts playing around with you and going like, well, who are you? What makes you think I want to hang out with you, or what makes you think I'd buy you a drink or whatever? Something that's sort of sassy back. That's a good thing. You want that response because that means that she thinks that you're attractive. If she didn't think you were attractive, she wouldn't be saying those things to you in the first place. She'd say, leave me alone. And so she's not attracted to you if that's the case. And, some women are just not going to be attracted to you, and this is kind of how it is. And some women are just really resistant as well. And I've had, times when I was sort of being a wingman for a friend of mine, and I would talk to a girl as kind of the bitchy one of the two or whatever, and he'd be talking to the one that was really nice, and I'm just trying to keep her occupied. And, I'd sit there and just talk to her, and she would ignore me and ignore me and ignore me, ignore me. I'd say tons of stuff and ignore me. And then finally I'd turn away for a second and just sort of smile and laugh and then turn away and then turn back around again. And she's paying attention. She's touching me. She's laughing. All of a sudden it just switches the flip. Flips the switch, I guess, in her somewhere, an attraction switch that just makes her automatically attracted. So what you're going to do is you're going to use this turn away concept, and you're also going to step a couple of steps away as well. So while she's laughing, you're going to take 2 steps away, and then you're going to turn around, and you're going to come back and walk back to her kind of slowly, and you're going to be smiling during the entire process. Now, don't keep your head down when you do it. Keep it up, laugh, smile whenever you turn. Kind of had the thought in your head of going like, whoa, where's this coming from? It's sort of like calm down, tiger kind of mentality. And you can even say calm down, tiger, and things like that as well to sort of get the banter going as well. So while she's laughing, take 2 steps away and then turn back around, and then you can smile at her. There are different styles for this. I know people that found when they actually backed up, instead of turning around, they back up and sort of not back up into her, but back up close to her and turn their head and smile. And that worked a lot better. Try both of those, but this is sort of the stepping away technique that a lot of guys don't try out because it's really risky. A lot of guys think that it's really risky because they don't want to give a girl the chance to leave. And that's really what negative body language does. You have to give her the chance to leave, and you have to make her think that if she's not going to chase you, you're going to leave. But not like in a confrontational kind of way, really in a playful way. A lot of guys overcompensate stuff like this, and they'll go, well, if you're not playful, I'm going to leave. Well, that's like you're being a baby, Women are not attracted to babies. They're attracted to men. So you can't do that. That does not work. And I know a lot of guys that have tried that, and, I've tried that too. I'm just as guilty as everybody else as making that mistake and for making that mistake. But I know that it doesn't work, and I don't want you to make that mistake yourself. Let's skip on out now to the next. Let's go to the approach. The approach is a really crucial component to meeting and attracting women that you don't know. Obviously, this is probably one of the biggest fear factors for guys, and I'd love to do a webinar fully on approach in the future, and maybe even an entire webinar series on how to approach and attract women. That would be a really great product, I think, to offer. But for now, I'm just going to go over how to use negative body language during your approach to sort of give you an idea of how this shifts and how you can sort of bend the rules here a little bit for negative body language to get a woman to automatically respond more positively to you approaching them. So the first, well, actually, probably the most important thing, the only thing I'm really going to touch on today, is that during the approach, you want to give immediate positive body language, and then you want to switch that to giving immediate negative body language. Now, why is that the case? Well, when you give positive body language in the very beginning, it shows a massive amount of interest. So it shows that you are interested in them. But if you keep it there, they have nothing to get back again. So what you're going to do here is you're going to show them what they could have if they chase you. And then you're going to take it away immediately. So positive body language, or negative body language basically is, again, I'm going to just sort of elaborate on the definition here, is basically taking away positive body language. So if you're facing her directly already and then you turn away a little bit, even if you just turn your body away and you keep your head facing her, she's going to feel like, holy crap, I got to get this guy's attention again. I'm losing him, you know? And a girl who's really beautiful is not going to be used to losing guys' attention. She's going to be used to having guys' attention constantly, and the guys are going to be all over her, and guys are going to be attracted to her and just digging her and just throwing themselves at her. So whenever you start to take this away, she's going to go, holy crap, what do I do? And she's going to do anything she can to keep it. And that's really what you want her to do. So in the beginning, you're going to show her positive body language. And the way that you do that usually is like introduce yourself by facing her completely. Your shoulders, your head, your hips, your legs, everything, your feet are all facing her directly. Maybe even in front of her, not even to the side of her, directly in front of her. And you're going to sort of step into her space, shake hands, maybe say hey or whatever, be like hi. And then as soon as you get her attention, as soon as she looks up at you and she notices that you're there and you look at her in the eyes, then you're going to give negative body language and sort of lean back. You have to also be very aware of your positioning on your feet, how you position your weight on your feet to show sort of distribution of weight. And the reason why is because as you sort of lean towards somebody, like say if you're facing her sideways, you have one foot that's toward her and one foot that's away from her. Well, if you lean on the foot that's toward her, you're still giving her positive body language because you're leaning toward her. So what you want to do is you want to face her sort of sideways, and then you want to lean away from her a little bit, not with your head. Keep this in mind. If you lean away with your head, it seems like you're afraid she's going to hit you, you know, like you're afraid she's going to swing at you. You don't want to do that. It's a really weird look. And other women are looking around the bar and they're seeing you and they're finding that's really weird. They get a really weird vibe from that. So you're just going to put your weight on your back foot, sort of sit back on your hip. You can see there's a statue of David, is like really a classic statue, a Greek statue. There's a lot of these Greek statues that have this pose where all their weight is on one foot and they're sort of leaning back and staying out of the way. And what that shows is this sort of non-neediness and this sort of control, power that women find very, very attractive. So what you want to do is you want to sort of mimic that with your weight and your body language. So you want to approach immediately, face her directly, but only face her directly if you're standing directly in front of her too. So as she's facing toward you, you're facing toward her for a minute. You're getting her attention, and then immediately just sort of take it away, lean back, and keep talking. And I'll give you sort of a 1 through 5 guide here in a bit. Or I think it's a 1 through 4 guide actually for this, and it will sort of show you exactly what to do in what stage of the interaction, what to show, what part of your body to face toward them. So again, during the approach, you want to make sure that you give immediate positive body language, and then you take it all away and give negative body language after that. And that's sort of a little technique that a lot of guys don't know about, so I'm happy to share that with you there. So the more positive body language that she gives to you, the more compliance and control she will give to you. Now, let me elaborate on that. The more she faces you with her body, the more she will do to win you over. So the goal here is try to get her to face you with her body. And she will give up all the control. She will start to do what you say. She'll start to try to please you. She'll start to try to chase you. She'll do anything she can to show this interest to you. And as you do this, as you use this body language, this negative body language and positive body language here, you will get a reaction of her as she chases you. You start to see that she starts to turn her body to face you more. And as she faces you more, that's sort of like a gauge of her interest. So you can look at how much she faces her body toward you as sort of a barometer for her attraction. So as her attraction builds toward you and for you, you'll see her face you with her body more. You'll also start to see her touch you more with her hands. And so you want to try to get this positive body language from her, but you don't want to give the positive body language to her. And that's sort of a crucial area. So I just wanted to touch on that for a second. And as I move forward, you'll see a couple other things. And of course, when in doubt, you want to copy her body language. So if you don't know whether or not she's attracted, whether or not you should lean in, lean back, whether or not she's interested in you, if you should have her chase you more, or if you should, show her, you should chase her more and show a little bit more interest. And when in doubt, you want to copy her body language. And by that, I don't mean do what she does and move how she moves. That's a big mistake, actually, because you're going to be moving in a submissive way, which is not attractive to women. You want to instead match her level of positive body language toward you. So if she's not facing you and she's facing sort of a different direction, you want to face maybe even the same direction. You want to face and give her about the same level of negative body language as she's giving you. And then as she starts to give you more positive body language through interacting with her and sort of this push and pull, then you're going to slowly give her more positive body language too. And I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute here. If you have any question about how much negative body language you should give, again, you just want to match her level of negative body language, and that will give you a gauge as to whether or not you should be giving her more or less during that time. Again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to comment. You can comment right now, and I'll see the comment, and I will get back to you as soon as I can and sort of respond back during that time. So move on to the next thing here. We're going to go over an advanced concept now. Definitely write this down. Try it out. The reason why it's advanced is because it just shows that you need a little bit more understanding of the nuances of attraction and the nuances of negative body language to be able to get this concept and to be able to do it right. So it's a little bit more advanced, but check it out anyway. It's really cool. Once she gives you 100% of her positive body language, so once she's facing you totally, and she's smiling and laughing, whatever, and this could be a matter of minutes that this can happen in, depending on how resistant the girl is to how open she is or resistant she is to hooking up with somebody, really. If she's very resistant, it'll take her a little bit longer to give you positive body language. But if she's not very resistant, she will give you positive body language almost immediately. So you can check that out and see. Sort of use that as a gauge as well. But once she gives you 100% of her positive body language, then try misinterpreting everything that she says as a sexual come on. And by that I mean, if she says something like, do you come here often or something? That would be, you would misinterpret that as a sexual come on. You'd say, whoa, no, who's talking about coming here? I just met you. I don't want to start talking about how to make you come or how we're going to come together or whatever. So this is, like I said, it's a little more advanced, and a lot of guys can't do this because they're really afraid to do it. So I just wanted to drop that there and let you know that, once she gives you 100% of positive body language, you can start to misinterpret everything that she says to you as a sexual come on, and that will sort of allow you to take the interaction to a very massive sexual level. And whenever you start to joke around about sex like this, it makes the topic of sex not taboo anymore. And once the topic of sex is not taboo, then you can sort of do things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. One of those things that you can do is get sexual with a girl in public right when you first meet her. I remember one time I walked into a bar. I was using the push and pull techniques with this woman, and I think I probably mentioned this before. She had huge boobs. I mean, it was like and it turns out she was a dominatrix, but I didn't know that at the time, and I didn't find out the hard way. But I'm talking to her, and I go, she was giving me 100% of her positive body language, so I just went ahead and took things to a sexual level, and I just said, you know what, I'm not sure if you hear this often, but you probably should. You have beautiful tits. And she goes, thank you, and she took my hand, and she goes, feel them, and she took my hand and stuck it inside of her shirt and inside of her bra and told me to feel her tits. So I'm in the middle of a bar and surrounded by people, and everyone's staring at me while I'm feeling this girl up in the middle of the bar, and she's like huge tits, and she's like a sore thumb in this bar. She's got blonde hair, huge tits, and she's sassy and she's sort of the one that's got it going on in the bar that everyone's staring at, and I just looked like I did magic, and it was just like the guy's like, what the hell? How did you do that? And I didn't even try to do that. She grabbed my hand, and I didn't even try to push it forward. And once she gives you that 100% positive body language, and you can start to take things to a sexual level and have that sort of sexual conversation, you will be able to sort of jump and break the rules like this and do things that most guys can't do. And that's what makes you a badass with women. That's sort of how you do it. So now I'm going to go over one of my favorite things to talk about, and this is the negative body language guide. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the four, not the four, but four of the areas of the map of interaction. Two of which are attraction. These two are part of the attraction section of the map of interaction. And then these are the rapport and seduction stages, which are different stages. Qualifying is the third stage in the attraction phase. So just keep that in mind. If you want a refresher, again, pick up the book and check it out. And get the knowledge out of there too, because there's a lot of information in it. Some would say too much. You have, during the attraction stage, you want to only turn your head toward her. Now, what does that mean? That means that when you first meet her, the only thing that should be facing her body should be your head. You shouldn't be turning anything else toward her, just your head. If you're facing her with your waist, with your chest, with anything else, your feet, you're not doing this properly. So when you first walk up to a girl and you start talking to her, only face her with your head, and you're going to want to use banter during that time as well to sort of build this attraction. Again, there's the banter cheat sheet that I've given out to in the members area. If you log in, you go to access my downloads, or my products, you'll be able to see that there as well. And that is sort of a running list of a lot of the banter lines that I've used that have been sort of proven to build attraction. Go in there and use that banter. You don't want to say banter as an opener. You don't want to just walk up and say, you can, but you don't want to rely on it. Essentially, you don't want it to be something that you have to do in order to attract a woman. You want to be able to use other things as well. But that being said, it is a very, very classically effective list of things to say, and it's definitely worth checking out and doing. So when you first meet a girl, again, only turn your head toward her. Don't turn any of the rest of your body, especially if it's a very high impact environment, where it's like a bar or a club or something like that. If it's a cafe or something, you can get away with a little bit more. But again, I really believe that you should stick to this. It's a really great guideline, and it works really well. When in doubt, just follow the rules. Imagine that there's a girl sitting to your left, and you're at a cafe, and you turn your head toward her and you say something, and then you turn your head back and you look forward. Well, whenever you turn your head back, you'll notice she starts to turn her body towards you a little bit to sort of get your attention again. Then you can feel free to turn your head back again and sort of talk some more. Sorry, I'm turning my head as I'm talking, so it may be going out of the microphone. But as you turn your head and you talk to her, as she starts to go through the stages of the map of interaction, you see her, you're demonstrating high value, you're bantering with her, you're getting things sort of light and fun, and she's laughing. Then when you get to this qualifying stage, and she starts to qualify herself, meaning that she starts to kind of give you reasons why you should like her. Again, I go over this in detail in the Tao of Badass. Once she gives you reasons why you should like her, then she's effectively starting to chase you already. And at this point, you can start to turn your chest toward her. So now you have your head facing her, and you're facing her with your chest, but not the bottom half of your body, really. You're facing that some other direction. So you're just kind of turning, you're facing it with your chest, and that's pretty cool, and you're talking to her a little bit. So you only want to do this as she begins to qualify herself. So she may say, I have a couple of ways to qualify a girl in the Tao of Badass. If you read it, you can get those sort of techniques out, and they're really cool. And a lot of women would automatically qualify themselves without any sort of coercion from you. So you want to keep an eye out for that as well. But either way, keep that in mind, that as she goes through the process of qualifying herself, you're going to be then facing her with your chest and your head. So moving on, once she gets past that and you get into the stage of rapport, and you start to talk about stuff that's actually serious, and you go through the light rapport stages and all that, right after the qualifying stage, immediately after you've turned your chest toward her, you're going to then be able to turn your waist toward her. But it's very important that you take this in increments and you don't just turn your waist and your chest toward her immediately. Now, the reason why is because you can overstep that boundary, you can go too fast, and she'll have no reason to continue chasing you. So you want her to have that reason to chase you. So again, during the rapport stage, when you're having a real conversation with her, you can turn your waist, and at this point, you're facing her with your chest. your head and your waist. And you can also lean in for the first time. Now, you're not going to be leaning in before this. During the attraction stage and during the qualifying stage, you're not going to be leaning your body toward her in any kind of respect whatsoever. That's way too much positive body language. Guys who lean in like that are trying to skip ahead to the rapport stage so they can attract women. That doesn't work very well. So you want to make sure that you keep that under control. You can lean in for the first time whenever you're building rapport, but don't do it before then. And then finally, when you're in the stage of seduction, again, you can overlap this directly with the touch guide that we went over in the last webinar. During the seduction stage, you'll be able to turn your feet toward her and face her with your entire body, including your feet. And you'll be able to lean in, and you'll be able to take things sexual here at this point as well. So at this point, you will have, you'll be facing her 100% with your body, but you only face her 100% with your body once you think you can take things to a sexual level with her, and not before then. So you can bend these rules a little bit every once in a while if you want to jump to seduction and you know how to, and you can know how to skip some of the stages or sort of breeze through the stages, attraction, qualifying, rapport. Then you can, if you know how to do it, then by all means skip it and jump straight to this if you want to and you think you can do it. And there are ways to do this, and I'm going to go over that a little bit in the psychological space webinar, which we will talk about next time. I will talk a little bit about how to go sort of skip a couple of stages and how to jump straight into seduction by using framing. So that's what we'll go over during the psychological space section next time. And again, if you have any questions right now, I'd love to hear your comments, questions, anything. I'm going to go ahead and take some time right now, and I'm going to answer your questions live. So if you have a question you want to ask in person, feel free to do that. You can click the sort of button there and comment right there. It looks like I have a question already, so I'm going to go ahead and answer that question. Let me see it. Let me see here. Okay, we got one here. Yeah, could I post? Michael asked if I could post a PDF of the negative body language guide. Yeah, and actually, if you see below the video for the touch guide, which I did during the touch webinar last time, you'll see that there's if you go back and you go to replay the video, you'll see that there's an image that you can download there that is the actual touch guide. So I'll put the negative body language guide below the video, and I'll put the touch guide also is there as well. And any other guides that I can come up with as I move forward, I'll try to put together. I will also take these different videos, these different webinars that you're looking at now. I know you've seen like the really cool zoom in, zoom out sort of presentation software here. I'm going to embed this online so that you can actually push next and play and control the webinar yourself and look at the different parts of the webinar so you can review your notes. So if you want to see something that you missed before, or if you want to sort of go through and check and see if there's something that you missed, then you can play through the webinar and get that information as well. You don't have to watch the whole thing if you don't want to. Okay, so I got another question here from Scott. So I'm just going to read. Allow me, Scott, for a moment to sort of read through your question, and I'll be able to respond to it. Okay. Okay. So Scott had a question to know if I had worked with any guys who have had Asperger's syndrome. And just in case, I think a lot of guys won't know what Asperger's syndrome is. Asperger's syndrome is essentially, and this is a really watered down version, so forgive me if I sort of, make this sound simpler than it really is. But it's essentially a super internal frame, which means that people who have Asperger's have a really hard time gauging what other people are feeling, because they are in their own heads and their own emotions so much. And to some extent, we all have a level of this going on. We can sort of fall into this category at any given moment. And actually, Asperger's is just an extremer version of having just an internal frame. And a lot of people who are famous and rock stars, actors, people who are really good salespeople on TV and stuff that sell a lot of programs and products and stuff, they all have sort of a mild case of Asperger's. They have an internal frame. And what that means is they don't look to other people for approval very often. They look toward internally for approval. And what this does is it allows, sort of makes it difficult sometimes for people with Asperger's syndrome to connect with and understand what someone else is feeling, because they're not looking to them to figure out what they're feeling. So, Scott, sort of the best thing that I've seen, I have worked with guys with Asperger's in the past, and as you might imagine, a lot of guys who have Asperger's come to me because this is sort of a major sticking point for them, is not being able to read this nonverbal communication like you're saying. So, if you do have Asperger's, if anyone does, they're going to have a little bit harder time reading these different body language cues. So probably the easiest way to do this, the best way to gauge how you should use your body, is to literally look at their body and whether or not, ask yourself, are they facing me directly or are they facing another direction? And if they're facing another direction, try to face the same direction for a little while. When they start to face toward you, then start to turn your body toward them. So you just sort of mimic them as closely as you can, just with the direction of their body and which way they're turning. And what this does is it allows a couple things. One is it allows to build a subconscious level of rapport with them, so they feel a lot more comfortable with you, which you won't be able to gauge otherwise. And then the other thing that it does is it automatically makes good use of these sort of body language concepts that I'm going over here. And it can be really difficult for a lot of, even for a guy who has a super external frame like myself, it can be difficult for me to even read those cues. So I can understand why it would be difficult for someone who has an extremely internal frame to do that as well. Again, I'm going to speak for a second here to what internal and external frames are again, because I haven't really talked much about that, and it's sort of an advanced concept that I'll go over in a different product. I go over in Hacking Attraction, which is a boot camp that I taught, and there's a video course for Hacking Attraction where you get to sort of be a fly on the wall during this boot camp, and I go over some of the concepts of having an internal and external frame and how to figure out which one you have. But I have an external frame, which means that I only know that I've done a good job if somebody's told me I've done a good job. And I can see something that I can go, I think I did a really good job there. But if someone says I did a terrible job, it's really easy to convince me that I just fucked everything up. And that's because I have an external frame. Now, anybody who has an external frame, almost everybody who has an external frame, wishes they had an internal frame, wishes that they could not care and not give a shit about what people thought. But the problem is, giving a shit about what someone thinks and connecting with them kind of go hand in hand. So once you give up that ability to give a shit what people think about you, then at the same time you lose that ability to connect with them and go past attraction. So people who have internal frames, as someone who has an Asperger's syndrome they have an internal frame. What happens here is that they don't really care as much. They're a lot more bold. They can walk up and approach a lot easier. They can connect in the beginning a lot faster, and they can really surprise a lot of women. And just by doing this, the sheer ability to be able to walk up and, balls to the wall, not care about anything, and just say hello, can give them an ability to really connect and really impress a lot of women. But right after that, the connection and the body language are really the parts that a lot of people who have internal frames get wrong. They sort of overstep their boundaries sometimes. And so, but it's totally fixable. And having it as something to really celebrate. So if you do have Asperger's, it's not something that you should shy away from or think that's wrong. It just means that you have a superpower, and that superpower has a weakness. Just like my superpower to connect has a weakness. I can't walk up to a girl like someone who has an internal frame and not care. I care. When I get rejected, sometimes it hurts. And when I was starting out, this is one of the big reasons why it was hard for me to walk up and approach women, because I didn't want to get rejected. So if I had an internal frame, I would have gotten better faster, but I wouldn't have gotten as good over time. So I want you to keep that in mind. So anyway, I think you should celebrate, if you do have Asperger's syndrome, if anyone does, I think you should celebrate it, really, because you have a superpower that you can play to your strength with, and then recognize your weakness, definitely. And I think I think that it's easy to see that you can here, and study some body language cues and everything as well, just to sort of plug in the holes there. So I'm sort of wrapping up here now. If anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand if you want to talk to me. I charge a lot of money to answer questions on the phone, so if you want to sort of take advantage of this, you can go ahead and do that right now, or you can, of course, post your question real quick, and I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to do that. while I'm still here and while this webinar is still going on. I don't have any problem answering any kind of question, even if it's a little bit off topic. But after today, you'll have to wait till next week and then get your question in. Then again, also if you do want to, like I said, I'm still sort of on the fence as to whether or not I'm going to add a bonus day onto this 5-week body language mastery course and throw in what I believe to be the fifth pillar, or the sixth pillar rather, of sex appeal, the sort of unspoken pillar of sex appeal. If you do want me to go over that, then I need your interaction during this point as well as in the future webinars. I need a lot of questions. I need a lot of comments. I need I need to hear from you guys. And I'm not gonna keep going if no one has a lot of questions. So, but anyway, I would love to continue with that. So anybody, if you do have a question right now, now's the time to ask it. I'm gonna wait about a minute here, and then I'm going to go ahead and sign off this webinar and let you guys go. So I'm going to chill here for a minute. If you do have a question, either raise your hand. You can click the raise hand button on the screen, or you can just type in the question in the questions section below it. I believe it's below it on your screen. It's below it on my screen. I can say that, but and I'll get to it. So I have a question now. I've got a couple, but I should be able to get to everyone's. Let me go ahead and unmute Michael. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you if you're okay with that. I got a couple Michaels here. Michael W is I'm going to unmute. So let me know whenever you go ahead and talk, Michael. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you fine. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So it's kind of like that's a really good question. So I would kind of describe it like if you're to play basketball, let's say, right? And the first thing you do when you play basketball is learn the rules of the game. You have to learn how, like, okay, this is out of bounds. You have to dribble the ball. You can't carry it and run with it. You can't kick it. The goal is to put it over there in the hoop, and that's what you're trying to do. So whenever you learn the rules and you really understand the rules, then you can sort of start to bend the rules to work in your favor. You know that you can take 2 steps with the ball before it's considered traveling. You can jump and grab a ball before it hits the ground and it's out of bounds and throw it back in bounds. You know how to sort of get the advanced level techniques that will make you a really awesome basketball player. And this sort of same concept happens when it comes to skipping steps in the map of interaction. And what you have to do is understand the rules and play by the rule book so well that you know what rules you can bend and break. And that's sort of what I did. I knew the map of interaction like the back of my hand. What you want to get to is you want to get to the point where you're doing something called seeing the matrix. And seeing the matrix is whenever you're talking to a girl, and as you're talking to her, you're consciously thinking, okay, right now we're in the attraction phase, and this is the demonstrate high value phase, and now I'm moving to the qualifying phase because she's qualifying herself. And this is a light report question she's asking me. Does that make sense? So you're actually getting it in the moment. You're seeing exactly what's happening, and that's why the map of interaction is probably one of the most crucial components to the Tao of Badass and sort of what I've learned over the years that I've studied to how to attract women. Because once you see it and you sort of have that aha moment, like the holy shit moment, you can then start to bend the rules, and that's what I did. So then you can start to look at women. You can see women that are in a default stage. Some women are defaulting to the stage of seduction. That's what they default to. And then once you have the eyes to see that they are defaulting to seduction, you can walk straight up and skip all the stages. And you can jump straight to seduction. And it's a really, like I said, it's kind of an advanced technique for a lot of people, but completely doable. But the stage before that, the thing that you have to sort of get handled before then is understanding the map of interaction. Just sort of go out with the intent of learning how to see what stage you're in as you're in the stage. It's called seeing the matrix. And I remember the exact moment when it all clicked for me and I could all of a sudden see the matrix. I was in a bar. It was in North Carolina, and I don't know what it was. I was just like chilling. I walked downstairs, and it was like I could read everyone's minds all of a sudden. And I was like, that girl's attracted to that guy, but that girl's trying to get this guy's attention, and he's pretending like she's attracted to this guy. And I could tell by reading all their body language and I understood body language in conjunction with the map of interaction and touch, and it just all made sense all of a sudden, you know. And looking out for those different cues is what allows you to sort of be able to bend the rules like that. Now, I mean, I would say that if I had to give you one sort of piece of tangible advice that you can sort of take away and you can use to sort of skip stages. Of course, most guys are trying to get to seduction. So I'll just like teach you how to jump straight to seduction, basically. You can tell that a woman is sexually attracted and sexually sort of active mentally if whenever you approach her, if she automatically gives you positive body language and then she automatically sort of looks you up and down. If you get a woman doing that to you, then you can skip every stage before seduction and jump straight to seduction, right? So I know it's kind of like strange, but what most guys do is they walk up to a girl, she does that, and then they get freaked out and they try to start back at the beginning, and then the girl gets bored, you know? There's something called buying temperature, and buying temperature basically states that when a girl gets sexually turned on or seduced in some kind of way, she has what's called a high buying temperature. And the first person to walk up and take advantage of that high buying temperature sort of gets her, especially if she's single, of course, you know. So what typically happens is a guy will be talking to a girl. He'll be attracting her. He'll be seducing her, do all the work. He'll leave. And then for whatever reason, like he feels like he got rejected, he has to leave or something happens or I don't know, something comes up. And she's standing there just totally turned on, right? And the first guy to walk up and know what to do just gets to skip everything and go straight to seduction, right? So so having the eyes for women like that, being able to tell that's going on is really crucial. And one way to tell is you know, is a woman giving guys positive body language as soon as they walk up, not just you, but other guys too. And if she is, then you're probably looking at a girl who's actually currently in the stage of seduction and no one's noticing or taking advantage of it. So I could do a whole like book just around this concept because it's a really cool idea, you know, the idea that you can skip all these stages. It's sort of like a voodoo thing, you know, and it's sort of what comes of the superpowers that you sort of learn from the foundations of what we're talking about right now. So does that sort of answer your questions at all? Or? Yeah, so it could be something that's honestly outside of your control. It could be something that just happened already. You could be talking to someone who's very open sexually. You know, like I said, the story of the dominatrix that I met, she's obviously very open with her sexuality. So that sort of happens, and you can actually create these situations by bringing your sexuality out early, and in a way that's sort of nonchalant, like talking about sex in a way that's not taboo. A lot of guys don't know how to do that. A lot of guys think that the area of sex is really taboo. And you know, and that's, if you do that, you create the taboo around sex. That's what happens, you know? So, go ahead. Right. Of course. Right. Oh yeah. And the person who sees these opportunities is the person who can actually take advantage of them, you know? And I'd say that probably 50% of the success that guys have, that naturals have, is sort of seeing the proper target at the time. You know, seeing a girl that they know that they can go with, and then ignoring all the rest of them and just going for the one that's the easy kill here. You know, like the injured or sick lemur. You know, like the antelope. You know, and but I don't necessarily think that's the way to go. I think that you should be able to see that, absolutely. But I don't think it's the be all end all. I think that the other 50% is where all the really high quality women are. So being able to create the situation is probably more important. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute you now, Michael. Is that good? Cool. All right, cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So I got another question. Nick is asking for quote unquote for a friend. I know what you mean, Nick. Sure, it's your friend's asking the question. I get it. But he's asking, do these techniques work on married women? Of course they do. I would suggest that you find out if she's married ahead of time and not go down that road. Not because it's wrong to seduce a married woman, but more so it's really risky and it's very quite possible that you're going to end up with an angry husband at your door with a shotgun. I would totally stay away from that. But yes, I do. Body language techniques work on everybody. And you said also, what about gay women? Well, gay women are looking for something different in body language, but the positive negative body language is still the same. The difference for gay women, for lesbians, is dominant and submissive body language. So certain lesbians are going to be looking for submissive traits, and they're going to find that quality attractive, and others are going to be looking for dominant traits. They're going to find that attractive. So probably the ones that you're going to be attracted to, or your friend, quote unquote, is going to be attracted to, are going to be the women who are attracted to dominant body language traits. And a lot of those women are like lipstick lesbians, and they're like the really beautiful, dainty, girly ones, and they're the ones that a lot of guys want to hook up with. But yes, and it is the same for friendships, for women who are, gay, straight, whatever, married, single. This works for everybody all the time. Now you have a choice to take this to a level of seducing someone with it. I stay away from, once I find out someone's in a relationship, I stay away from that, obviously, and I would suggest you do too. If for any reason I'm in a relationship, and I would be pissed if I found out, I would be fighting mad. I'd be madder than a hornet, but that's just me. And you can find out and you can choose. The point is that you get to choose whether or not you want to continue, and that really is the power that I want to sort of give you guys. So yeah, they do work. The negative body language stuff works in business and in relationships and friends and everything else. And I got one last question, then I'm gonna have to split here. Sort of went over. The question here is from another Michael here, Michael L. Can combinations of techniques be used with eye contact, touch, negative body language during the map of interaction? And the answer to that is yes. So basically what you're asking here is, can you use combinations of these different techniques and combinations that work together, sort of combos here, where you're like, use this touch, this form of eye contact, and this negative body language at this time, and you will automatically jump to this stage? And the answer is yes. There are different combinations that you can do, and I do know those combinations, or a good deal of them. I don't know if I know every single one, but I definitely know a lot of them, and I would love to teach those as well. That's going to take some serious thought on my end. I've never really taught a group of guys that before, so I'd love to put that system together. But you can, and two that work really well together are the negative body language process and the touch process. If you can put those two together, then you've got yourself something really powerful. And whenever you have using eye contact as well is going to be different for now. I won't get into how to put that in there, but I would master one at a time, and then I would start to combine them. So definitely master the touch side, where you understand what stage you're in, and you also understand how to touch a woman during that stage. Then switch over to using negative body language, only. Don't worry about the touch anymore. Just try to forget about it, and use the negative body language system that you've seen, that I taught. And then from there, try to combine them both together. And when you do combine them, you will get a massive amount of positive response from women that just will be mind-blowing. So it's sort of an advanced technique, but I know that if you've already gotten to the point where it's working, the negative and positive body language part's working, and the touch part's working for you, then you're ready to start combining them. So definitely make them both work first before you start putting them together. But when you're ready at that point, absolutely check it out. So thank you guys very much for swinging by today, and I had a really great. This has been a really great webinar, and look forward to the next one, and to teaching you guys sort of on and on as time goes on, the different processes. And I hope you're gaining a whole lot from not just this course, but from all the other stuff as well. Thank you guys very much for the props here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week. What I would do right now, though, while you're still here, I'm gonna go ahead and type this to everybody. Let's see, it's a web domain here, languagemastery.com. I don't know why I didn't do this last time. .dow badass.com. Sorry, just give me one moment here. I'm gonna send this to everybody in the chat window here. You should have just gotten a message from me that has a domain. I'll give you, I'm not sure if this thing does hyperlinks so you can click or not. Let me see. www. Try that. So see if that works. If it does, I'm not sure if you guys all got that. I'll do it one more time just in case. Send to all. There we go. So if you guys see that link in there, go ahead and click on that link. What you'll see there is you'll see the replays of the different webinars. I can see a few people are already going to do that, it looks like now. You'll see a replay of a few of the webinars, but you'll also see a section, a little sidebar section that says psychological space on it. If you click on that, you'll be prompted with a register button. Click on that register button and register now for next week's webinar. A lot of guys miss a lot of amazing content because they don't get this thing live. Then they have to see the replay. And so make sure you show up, and it just makes, and if I keep getting a lot of people showing up for these different webinars, like I said, I will go ahead and push through and create a webinar for the 6th pillar of body language, or of not body language mastery, 6th pillar of sex appeal. And I will teach it to you guys sort of as a bonus just for being awesome. So go ahead and do that and let me know you're going to be there next week, and I will see you then. Take care, guys, and keep being badass. Talk to you soon.